Hi my stitchy friends, and welcome back to my channel. I'm making some really good progress on Astrology Cat. So we're about, 7 days into this stitch along challenge now. And when did I last work on this? I think it was possibly Thursday. So I've had a couple of days to get some more progress on it. So I'm really quite pleased with how much I've got done. I managed since the last time to finish the rest of this column down here and start up on this one here. So it's pretty good going. So I think I'm actually, going at a good enough pace that I might actually be able to complete this challenge. At the very least, I'll be able to complete the challenge of having done, just adjust my lighting here, of having done 4 full pages by the end of the year. I think that's totally possible. I'm not going to be too excited or too complacent and say, oh yeah, I'll definitely have this done, like the whole thing done by the end of the year. I don't really know what's going to happen throughout the year. But it would be nice, of course, to have the pattern finished by the end of the year. But I think getting the 4 full pages done will be, for me, some sort of an achievement, a completion. It means that I've put in the necessary effort that I wanted to put in, that I signed up for, basically. And I think I would actually be a little bit disappointed if I didn't actually finish 4 full pages by the end of the year. So I think now is the time to be figuring out my daily routine so that I can actually fit in an hour or so a day at least on this chart. So what I'm going to do today is continue working down in this column, and I'm working, get this right for the camera, and I'm working on 22 count. For those of you who don't know, I'm on 22 count. This is hardanger, just a kind of spare piece that I have, and I'm doing 1/1 full cross with 1 strand. What I've noticed when I have quite a few strands parked here is that they don't rest very straight. They do now because I've kind of, smoothed them down, but they get very spindly. Or maybe it's just that my threads are actually quite spindly and twisted. But they get more twisted than when I work 2 strands, actually. I've noticed that difference, but I don't know whether it's just because of the way I store them or it's just the way it is. I don't know. If other people are using 1 strand, how do you store your threads? And do you find that the actual storage of them makes a difference to how well they cooperate if you're parking or what have you? I know that when I winded my threads over bobbins, they definitely had a kink in them because obviously they were being wound over 2 edges like that, completely wound around. So it would make a difference to how straight they will be once you start stitching with them. But anyway, it's just a minor point really, just something that I kind of noticed as I was taking strands out and getting a few parked threads together. They tended to be a little bit more tangly than what I'm used to. And also because this is not stitching in hand, by the way. Stitching in hand is when you don't use any kind of a hoop or any kind of a frame at all to keep your fabric taut or whatever. But it is for me a sort of stitching in hand because I do tend to use the Lowry stand for most of my stitching. So actually not being able to stitch two-handed is a little bit of a drawback, I have to admit, because two-handed gives me that extra teeny bit of speed. And I just feel like I've got more dexterity. I've got more control over the threads when I've got 2 hands working at the front than if I have 1 hand working both ways, because obviously I'm holding this hoop. So I only have the use of 1 hand, obviously. So yeah, obviously 2 hands are better than 1, but I'm not going to complain. We'll see what happens with my clamp. I went into town yesterday and I posted my clamp to Lowry, the makers of the Lowry work stand, who advised me to post it to them. It wasn't cheap to post it. I admit it cost me about £11 sterling to post. I'm not good at currency conversions, but I would guesstimate roughly in the area of about $15 to post it to them. And my hope is, I mean, I don't really expect them to fix it for free, but my hope is that it's going to be cheaper. If it is fixable and they can return it, that it's going to be cheaper than buying a brand new side clamp, because the side clamp was close to $100. And I paid just over $100, which was about 100 sterling, for the entire Lowry stand. So I don't really want to pay a huge amount just for the side clamp. I know you can get replacement side clamps, but anyway, we'll see if I'm lucky enough that they can fix it, and perhaps they'll be able to send it back and hopefully just charge me for the labor cost of actually fixing it. That would be ideal, but I don't know. I mean, I can't speak for them. I don't know what they're going to do, but I'm just hoping that I'll get my clamp back fixed and I won't have to go and purchase a new one. I guess that's not a bad thing to hope for, really. I mean, considering I've only had it, I think it's less than a couple of years since I bought the Lowry, and I don't know why the clamp has stopped working. So I know that you're supposed to take care rubbing beeswax on it, which I did, actually. I did that a few times, so I just don't know, but we'll see. We'll see how that works out. A few of you have given me some information on different types of stands, which is very appreciated. Thank you very much. I will certainly this year look into alternative options in case this ever happens again. The problem I have is I'm hesitant to actually buy something and then find out that I don't like it. And I've heard quite a number of floss tubers say, well, I bought this stand and I don't use it because of X, because I don't have the right, it didn't work for my sofa, it didn't work for the chair that I stitch in, or it just didn't work for my frame that I have. And this is the kind of thing that makes me a little bit hesitant to fork out a lot of money on a huge stand, because you see, I just don't know. I mean, somebody said it would be great, wouldn't it, if we could have like a cross-stitch stand, like an open room where everybody could go in and try different stands, and then they could just purchase the one that suits them. Kind of like a car dealership where you go in and you get to sit inside the car and you get to look it all over and check the engine and everything, just to see if you are comfortable sitting inside that car. I'm going to end my threads at the front here so that I don't have to keep switching this around from front to back. Not because the back is in a particularly bad state. It isn't, actually, but I just feel like it's just going to be easier to end at the front. And I'm covering up as I go along anyway. So yeah, it would really be nice if I could get into a showroom and try different stands, but that really isn't going to happen anytime soon. So let's see. I'm going to have to do a little bit more research. Why am I having such super long threads to stitch with here? I don't really need such long strands. I don't know why I cut them so long. Especially because I'm only doing like currently 2 or 3 stitches per colour. I don't need, look at that massively long strand. Just makes things a bit more twisty, but I don't seem to learn by my mistakes. I continue to cut massively long strands. Oh dear, never mind. Yeah. So that said, with the whole Lowry business, I've actually been plodding along quite nicely using the hoop. I've gone from a smaller hoop to a slightly bigger hoop today, because as the picture itself gets a little bigger, I feel more comfortable. I actually enjoy seeing more of the picture as it gets bigger. I don't really like when I can't see a lot of the parts that I've already done. I know that when I'm using like the large Q snap or whatever, I get to see loads of the pattern that I've already stitched, but even good portions of it are hidden away. But I guess it's different tastes for everybody, isn't it? I mean, some people like to roll everything up as much as they can and hide as much of the fabric as they can so that it's kind of out of the way. And other people like to see as much of the cross-stitch design as they can as they're stitching it. It's really interesting, really interesting. So I'm working not in rows. I've done a lot of rows over the years, and I come and I go with the rows. Now you see this keeps getting stuck now onto my needle minder. And to me, I think it depends on what way the stitches are going. In this pattern, the stitches are all sort of working in a curve like this. So I'm sort of doing the colours in a curve also. And instead of working rows, I'm kind of working in curves. Is there such a thing as working in curves? I guess it is now, because these colours are all curved like that. As you can see, all the dark colour went that way. So yeah, I kind of, that's how I'm stitching it, how it looks. And for some reason, right where I am at this second, there is a lot of colour changes, because we're moving into this bit here, which has got a lot of colours in. And I know this method isn't for everybody, and a lot of people like to do cross country and they just like to go. I've seen already a number of people have already worked. This is going to drive me nuts, this needle minder. A lot of people have already worked in doing, for instance, a whole black area, a big black patch down here, and they've already worked, say for instance, the whole curve going along, and it looks interesting, definitely does. I'm sort of trying to do big, blocky areas of it like this, going down in a column as opposed to going in a curve, I guess. So everybody's doing it slightly differently, and I think that's the beauty of it, because you get to see the different aspects of this chart in different forms. If people are tackling it in different ways, I think that's kind of interesting. So I've seen a little bit cross country where it's all sort of dotted around, and then my version where you've got more filled in one area, or everything filled in one area. So yeah, super interesting, I think. So with this method that I'm doing here, it's a little bit more tricky with the park threads. However, I find it's quite relaxing. I'm ticking along. I can watch TV whilst I'm stitching. I can listen to music. I don't have to pay a huge amount of attention to where I'm going, because I'm only working in the same sort of little area. So the biggest mistakes I can do is maybe just one stitch wrong or a couple of stitches wrong. I'm not going to go any further than that down the road, because I feel like as soon as I make a mistake somewhere, I'm going to just get mad with it and quit. If I make a huge mistake cross country, it puts me off big time. So, oh, hello, my cat's here. Oh no, she's going to try and sit on top of me now. Watch this. Misty, I don't think there's any space for you here. We're sort of doing a video. Yeah. I'm so sorry, but this is not Misty video. This is a stitch with me. So you're going to have to shuffle off a little bit. Sorry. Well, that's disappointed her, but never mind. For some reason, whenever she sees that I've got stitching balanced on my lap, she has to come along and say, nope, that's my spot. You can go somewhere else. Now she's decided to sit on top of my scissors. Well done. Where am I going to put those now? Oh dear, the need for attention is just so vast. Isn't that true, little miss? She has spent most of the morning inside a cardboard box because we had a new internet router delivered yesterday, and my husband has been putting all the things together with cables and everything, and we didn't see her for ages, and then we realised she was inside the cardboard box for so long that we didn't even know how long she'd actually been in there. But she just said, here's a nice spot to just stay for a couple of hours. I just can't believe how much cats love cardboard boxes, you know. And I think the only reason we realised she was in there was actually walking past it, and then suddenly you get this claw come out and stab you in the ankle as you're walking past. Yeah, really nice. That's cats for you. That's kind of how they show their love for you. I mean, sometimes they're affectionate, and other times they want to shred the skin on your legs. So it's not consistent, is it really? They can be a bit demonic sometimes. Yes, I can hear you purring. You know I'm talking about you. Okay. So it's very, very quiet today. It seems very quiet outside. I guess it's sort of like that at the beginning of January. Everybody's kind of exhausted from Christmas and organising Christmas. They kind of need the first few weeks of January to recover. So there's hardly like any traffic or anything, which is actually good. I mean, who wants loads of traffic? So what else did I get done? Stitching wise, I have worked on Home for the Holidays, which is my Thomas Kincaid piece, and I am now at, I think it's 79%. 79, I can't believe it. I'm nearly at 80% on that chart. I'm just flying with it. It's not going to be long before Home for the Holidays is finished. Now, I did calculate that I had to do, I think it was 55 or something stitches a day. Actually, for 20,000 stitches, I had to do 1,500, was it, or something a month, to finish the chart by the end of the year. But I think I can finish that chart before the end of the year if I do a couple of good sprints on it. I think it's totally doable, because as much as I want to get what I can done on this chart, let me say that it's not going to be the only chart that I stitch on, because I really don't like working on one thing and then abandoning everything else, because I did have goals for my other pieces, and I think it's only fair to kind of divide my time between them, rather than just, I mean, if I just stuck to this one and did nothing else but this one, yeah, sure, I'd race through it, and I'd probably have this, at least this quarter, finished way before the next part of the chart comes in. But I don't want to abandon the other whips I have. So once I've done a couple of hundred on here, which is more than enough for a day, to complete the goal of 4 pages a year, then I will move on to stitching on something else. So for instance, yesterday I think I did about 230 or 240 stitches, which is more than is needed a day. More than is needed a day to finish the chart by the end of the year if you were to do it every day. But anyway, I did that, and then I put it aside, and I decided to take out my Home for the Holidays and I ended up doing 300 stitches on it as well. So it was kind of balanced that way, so that the other one keeps chugging along so I can get a finish on it this year. That's the plan. And everything else, or anything else, might come into the picture or out of the picture, depending on the mood, depending on the time restraints. I may bring something out for an hour or so every so often. And also, just to add to my time dilemmas, I've so many books that I want to read. And I've started reading one, and I've been reading it at night mostly, but I want to read it during the day as well. So yeah, I need to find a little time for that. Isn't it crazy how we want to do so many things and we just don't have enough hours in the day? I want to get everything done. But yeah, I guess prioritizing is what we need to do. We need to just prioritize what it is we really want to get done. And just not worry about the rest of the stuff. I mean, I'm not too worried about my sleeping whips. They can just stay sleeping until I'm ready to pick them up. It's not going to harm anybody. So yeah, I don't feel guilty about that. So how many have we got done so far? We've got 80 stitches done. Not all of these stitches have I done just now, by the way. I did a little few when I got up this morning. And yeah, it's actually going quite pleasantly like this. I'm not getting into too many knots or tangles. It's working quite well. I'm wondering if even if I do get my Lowry clamp back, am I still going to stitch like this, or will I put the put this project onto my Q-snap and back onto my clamp? I don't know, because I kind of find it quite comfortable to stitch like this on my lap. I'm comfortable on my Lowry stand as well, but I do tend to lean forward quite a bit, which can place a little bit of pressure on my neck or my back, but I do try to remember not to lean or sort of dip my head too much, because that does cause pain. So my plan today is to get a couple of hundred done here, and then I'm going to knot stitch for a little while. Oh dear, it's the teeniest of little knots there. Oh, this is the bit that gets a bit tricky. If I can just pull the thread a little bit, I can actually get that little knot off just by pulling the thread, usually. See, now it would have been easier. I wonder if I can just pull it under so you can't see it. Yeah, I don't think you can see. Tiny knot now. I just pulled it through to the other side. Teeniest of knots. Just leave it at the back there. Okay. Is there any more stitches in this colour? Yeah, we have one over here. I need to get this little guy before I can end this thread. That's when two hands come in handy, when you get a little knot, because you can work away at the thread a little bit better with two hands than you can with one. That's the end of that thread there. I must put it back into its place, because otherwise I won't have a clue what colour it is later. If I can find... 2. There you are. So it's a little bit, so this area here is a little bit, yeah, it's probably the worst area to have done a stitch with me on. But hey, that's kind of where I landed. No, I think I'll go with this one first. Just get that little one stitch there. So I feel so much better after having caught the most horrendous cold over the Christmas week, which is so typical. We flew to Ireland to visit family, and almost like one day after being there, I was sick. I probably caught something on the plane, no doubt. And it took me a full 2 weeks to recover from it. But it never got particularly, like, hugely bad. It was always just more irritating, more feeling tired and a bit run down than anything else. A little bit of a sore throat, runny nose, but nothing major, which is good, because who wants to be really, really sick over Christmas in a different country? Nobody. And even when I came back, I was still tired and a bit run down, and I still feel tired, like I can't get back into my routine. So sleeping has been difficult, trying to get back into a normal routine. I mean, I go to bed at the same time and normally wake up around the same time, but I think the quality of sleep is a bit impaired because of that cold. I still feel a bit rubbish physically, so need to get, pumping some vitamins and a bit more exercise and whatever it is we need to do to feel more energetic and a little bit more alive. That's all I need. I need a boost of energy and stuff. So yeah, that may take a little bit longer. So hopefully by mid-January to the end of January, I might feel more like myself again. But I know that people having colds and stuff over Christmas can take weeks and weeks to shift. Those little germs can be a real pain to do away with. But I mean, I feel fine, just a little bit not quite myself. I need to get a bit more energy going, I think. Kind of went into town yesterday, and by the time I came back, I was ready to lie down. I was so tired. And I want to get back into my healthier eating, because I sort of nibbled at, chocolates and things over Christmas, as you do, and that always doesn't really do my skin any good, or it's not perfect. So I try after the holidays to sort of get back into a healthier eating routine, more fruit, more veg, that sort of thing. That's about it, really. There is not an awful lot. So I'm liking how this is coming out. I wonder how everybody else is getting on with their pieces that they've chosen to work on. How are they feeling about it? Still motivated? Still inspired? Or wishing they hadn't started it at all? Well, I hope nobody feels that way, because that would be a bit sad if somebody who'd started this had decided after a few thousand stitches that they didn't want to do it anymore. I think it might happen occasionally. I'm certainly quite happy with the flow I've got going right at this moment. it just means adding this into my, just means adding one more piece into my routine. And talking about adding one more piece into my routine, this is going to be another honesty revelation now. So Heaven and Earth Designs decided to give everybody in the Stitch Along group a free chart. And oh my God, isn't it the most gorgeous chart? It's right up my street, being vintage looking, because some of you know I love history. I'm a bit of a history buff. I have written historical fiction novels, and I love all things about the past. So it's a sort of Edwardian looking kind of scene of a lady sitting in a chair stitching. And I find it quite amusing to stitch somebody who's stitching. That to me is quite quirky. And so this is a free chart, but looking at the chart, it is huge. It is actually another biggie. It's about 300 and so many thousand stitches, 349, 350, something around that mark. So it's another huge investment in time and commitment. But I love the chart, and I think quite a few people do. And I think people who aren't doing the stitch along are feeling a little bit miffed, or maybe just left out, that they can't stitch the chart because it was free to the people who are doing this particular stitch along. So I don't know if Heaven and Earth Designs would consider selling it or not. That is not up to me at all. It's nothing I can do or arrange. I just think that maybe if it was to be a popular chart, she might be able to consider that, selling it. But then it wouldn't then be just have been a sort of gift to the people in the group. But anyway, whichever way it works out, I really like it, and I am thinking about doing it. But definitely not this year, because as I've said before, this year has got its goals. I'm going to finish my 4 full pages here at least. I'm going to finish Home for the Holidays, and everything else I'm going to be trucking along with as per usual, because it's not about racing to the end. However, I'm thinking, could I start this piece in January, as a January start next year? Could I just do it? Should I do it? Saying should I is a little bit, I don't know, because there's no answer to a should I. You either do or you don't. There's no should. Maybe I shouldn't, but maybe there's more of a shouldn't than a should. If you know what I mean. I think some of you stitchers know exactly what I mean. However, if I really love it, maybe I could start it in January next year, because I'll have finished Home for the Holidays. I'll have got my challenge done in this one. I'll have got a lot further. Hopefully I've got to 50% on my Riverwalk charm. Could I squeeze in this chart? I'm not altogether completely happy about the size of it. I would much rather if it had been a little bit smaller. So I'm actually going to wait and see if there is any kind of concession. If somebody comes along and says, can I have this chart in a smaller size, and maybe Heaven and Earth do that, I will grab the smaller size. I don't want a mini of it because I love the detail in it. I think it's got quite lovely details. I think a mini might be a little bit pixelated. It's just so beautiful, but I think I would like it maybe even just a third smaller than what it is. And I've also thought, I don't know why I'm even thinking about this, because I've still got a whole year to decide whether to do it. I was also thinking about maybe cropping a little bit of the top section and seeing if that might shave off a few stitches which are not completely necessary. There's that option as well. So yeah, there's options. There's definitely options. And before I get into any 100% confirmation about anything myself, I'm going to see if that particular chart turns into a regular one for sale, or whether it remains as the freebie just for the group. Or we'll see what happens. We'll just see what happens. But anyway, it's up there for debate. And when I do get round to deciding whether to do it or not, I think it's going to be really exciting, because it's the kind of thing I love to stitch, really. I love to stitch. I think I've said it before. I love to stitch personally buildings, jolly scenes of landscapes, people in cafes, that kind of thing. Those are my favourite kind of stitchy things. I'm not really at all into these patterns that have little sayings and quotes and that kind of thing. Really not into that too much. Just my preference. So I love happy scenes, people scenes. Oh, come now. How many stitches have I got here? I'm now at 100 stitches. So there we go. I've got all these little crazy little waist knot bits here. They all get covered up. And if they don't, they can get pushed to the back of the canvas with a snag nabbit, which I actually have. I purchased a snag nabbit. I think I got the name right. It's actually quite a useful little tool, to be honest. I thought initially when I heard of it, it was totally useless, but I since found after buying one that it is actually useful. And I've also put it away somewhere, so I don't know where I've put it away. Do you ever do that? You think, I'll put this away so I don't lose it, and then you've lost it because you don't know where you put it away to. That happens to me all the time, drives me nuts. So I put something away to not lose it, and then I've lost it. All the time. Well, never mind. So here, sitting with you here today, I've managed to get this little, I don't know what on earth it is. Got that working. Got that little bit finished there. Okay, my husband just turned up there, so the cat went a bit crazy and I had to pause for a second. So I think I've done quite a bit since I've started this session, to be honest, considering I have been chatting the whole time. These threads now are starting to get a little bit pesky, shall we say. Let's try and get them around there. Yeah. I even try to get them around my clamp, or whatever you call this, hair grip. Can sometimes help. Not a bad job, really. So yeah, snag nabbit is what it's called. And if you don't know what that is, just Google it and you'll find a few of them. And they are useful for pushing these little furry bits at the front to the back. So it basically just looks like a kind of needle. It's got a serrated edge on one end, and you can push it through from the front to the back, and it takes that little furry piece with it. Normally, usually if it doesn't do it the first time, it'll do it the second time. That's what I found anyway. And if I can find the fella again, I will use him, but I don't know where he's hiding. So c'est la vie, c'est la vie. So I think I'm gonna maybe finish on this thread at the moment, because it's coming up to lunchtime and some hungry little monkeys are going to turn up and ask me for their food. So I may have to get something going. Then I will have a break this afternoon. and maybe catch up on some of that reading that I said I was going to do. It doesn't look like a very nice going out day today, to be honest. It's a little bit cloudy and a bit grey. Sometimes a walk around the park is a nice thing, I find. If you don't really want to go out, but you don't really want to stay in, if you have a little park or green area that's close to you, it's nice just to go for a little walk around the trees or over the grass. Just a few moments of pause and reflection. So that might happen after lunch. God, my life sounds so exciting, doesn't it? I wish I could be talking about Hollywood events and premieres and stuff like that, but sadly no. It's just little me in Scotland, stitching for all of you. There we go. Okay. That's it. I actually think I am now going to go and have a look for that little tool, the snag nabbit, and I'm going to, when I get down here, I'm going to push these little furry bits back to the back, because once I've covered everything up at the back, it's going to, well, normally they just pop through themselves, but if they don't, I'll just stick the snag nabbit and in they go. But as I'm going down, it'll cover up everything at the back, so it's really quite handy if you want to still end your threads at the front. I used to do like little pin stitches and that, but I don't know. I just find that's the quickest way at the moment, so it works for me. That's the way I'm doing it, and it's working for me. So whatever way works for you, just stick to that. Don't worry about what anybody else says, really. That's my advice. But people do often pass on really good tips, I find, and sometimes I take them on board, sometimes I don't. It really just depends on the way I'm stitching, how I'm stitching it, the kind of mood I'm in and everything else. So yeah, I'm really quite happy with this progress, and it's starting to show what the actual chart is, which it didn't when you were at the beginning. You have no idea what you're stitching or what it looks like, and now it's beginning to show some form and some design, which is really cool. So I'm going to head on now and catch up with my things, and thank you for spending less than an hour with me. I hope it wasn't too long for you, and I don't like it to go on too long, but just enough that it's not too little either. So thanks once again, my friends, and enjoy your stitchy day. I hope you get what you want achieved today, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye for now.